Hello everyone, welcome to this new technology moment. Thank you very much for watching our content as always. Today we are bringing to you one that will surely be useful to many, due precisely to the growing need for on-site surveillance systems that provide us with direct, instant access via video and that meet certain characteristics such as availability, stability, video quality, and optionally audio. It is a video that is not short, so we recommend watching it when you have the time and the disposition to listen to what we have to share with you in order to get the most out of it. Very quickly in this video, we will be seeing first a short introduction for beginners who want to start their own camera system in a do-it-yourself project manner. Second, what do we receive in a system like this one, the technology that it uses, as well as the current prices of a typical system as this one, of course, at the time of making this video. Third, deploying our system, some configurations and considerations such as daisy chaining IP cameras. Fourth, what options will we have for monitoring the cameras, installing the app, viewing recordings and how easy it is, which is the true point of any camera system. And finally, our experience, our recommendations and conclusions after almost 3 months of using this particular system. Well, this video is basically an update of the video that we published a few years ago with a couple systems that, although they used to work with a very different technology and with analog video transmission as well as audio, is a video that has been very well received and has been very useful to many. This doesn't mean that we are updating that system in particular. In fact, it continues to work outstandingly well, it is functional, reliable, and has still a very good image quality. At least in the short term, we do not plan to change it. Well, with the evolution of technology, this video is more geared toward those who are thinking about implementing a new video surveillance system, don't have the equipment, and want to know how it works, what devices they require, what investment should be made, and whether or not it fits your needs. These systems have the enormous advantage that they work in such a way that their wiring converges at the location where we are going to install our recording unit, DVR, or in this case, NVR, Network Video Recorder. This has another great advantage of being able to electrically back up the system with a UPS. Here we can see a preview of how this system ended up. This allows us not only to operate with batteries, but also to stay connected to the internet even after a power failure. Very important. The main change right here is that these systems have moved away from analog cable video and audio transmission. As we did in the past with these small devices known as video balloons, these used copper UTP cables to transmit power signals. This allowed us to use one cable for 2 cameras or even up to 3 if we consolidated the power through one of its pairs. These new camera systems have been on the market for many years, but have finally reached commercial price levels. To date, these are the prices that we can expect at this time. Remember that these can vary considerably over time, but we can get an idea. This can also be a reference in the future. They use the UTP cable as data network, just like a computer does, as they are IP cameras. They use the UTP cable as a data network, just like a computer does, as they are actually IP cameras. They will also use such cable to obtain power through the Power over Ethernet standard. The only thing is that each camera will exclusively use one cable. Well, today we will also learn how you can do when you want to connect 2 or more cameras to the same cable. So for those of you who are learning, these are the components of an IP camera system. The first one and the most important one is the NVR or Network Video Recorder, which will also act as a power supply for the cameras as it has a built-in Power over Ethernet switch and also a couple hard disk drive bays. The switch is fast Ethernet, is not Gigabit Ethernet, more than enough for each 4K camera. Each camera will consume no more than 1.5 to 2 watts, depending of course on the model. This switch performs address translation just like a router does and will connect to our local network through an independent port. The total consumption of a system like this one without a monitor is around 40 watts with all the cameras. This so you can get an idea. The address that this local port receives will be the address to which we will connect when we install the client program on any computer in our network from where we want to monitor. The other component in these systems will be the UTP cable, more important than you might think, which by standard should not exceed 100 meters or 300 feet. This cable must be at least category 5E. Ideally, it must be certified so that if we need to exceed this limit, we can do so by a small percentage without any problem. All this means use a good cable, or the cable that comes with the cameras. And the last component in this system will be, of course, the IP cameras themselves. These type of cameras are widely available and we can even interchange them with other brands or models, exactly as we ended up doing with our system, depending on the viewing angle and the resolution we want in a given location. The viewing angles are generally exaggerated by the manufacturers, who consider the angle to be the angle that gives us diagonally. You can estimate about 20 degrees less than what manufacturers claim. Okay, now, what do we receive in the box? We bought this system from this brand, very well packaged and very well protected. 12 cameras, 16 channels, and a 4TB hard drive included. We're not endorsing this brand. In fact, there are very similar systems on the market, all with almost identical functionality, results, and configuration types. What will likely be exclusive to this particular video will be the image quality, which will depend, of course, on the camera and the NVR resolution. Systems with at least 2 megapixels and full HD video will meet the needs of the vast majority. Today, the standard is 4K, and we'll show you in a moment the results. As you can see right here, we received the instructions manual, which we should always have on hand and digitized, the cameras right here, and this kit included a combination of long and short cables, 100 and also 60 feet cables. Here we see what we received on our desktop. In this case, and the reason that we chose this combo for those interested, is that it features cameras with this type of dome or external protection, which is metallic, and this protector, which is quite resistant to vandalism. Of course, and it's logical, a brute force attack might be able to disable the camera. Therefore, it is always prudent to put them out of the immediate reach of anyone. While the cameras support power via the network cable, they also have an independent input, a 12-volt input, by the way. Another reason we bought these cameras is that they feature color night vision with a wide LED and infrared support. We'll see more of that in a moment. They also record audio, recording both video and audio simultaneously on each channel separately. By the way, we have provided the links in the description to all the hardware that you will see in this video. They are very easy to install, and the physical installation procedure of the camera is very intuitive. In this case, you also get these weather protectors that will allow you coupling of the UTP cable, weatherproofing it. These cameras are rated IP66, by the way. This is the specific model of this NVR. Here we see that it comes with a 4TB hard drive, but we can install another one. This is where the hard drives are installed. The total capacity of the system is 20 terabytes, by the way. And very quickly here, we see the camera ports, the port through which the NVR will be connected to the network, external audio input and output, and the port to connect either a monitor or a TV set via HDMI or D-sub or VGA. Here the mouse port and some ports for integration with audible alarms, lights, or any other external device that we want to integrate. This is also very useful for later customizations. Ideally, in cabinets, the NVR should be installed with the ports facing forward so you can easily make changes and diagnose any connectivity issues. The rear USB port is also faster for extracting backups should you need it. The front port is only 2.0 and the front only has the operation indicator lights, which aren't very helpful. Another reason to rotate its connections to the front. Here's an idea of the size of this unit, perfect as we'll see for standard cabinets. Okay, so the configuration. The recommendation as always is to configure it on top of your desktop so that you can not only test that everything is working fine before mounting it to its final location, but also comfortably test the functionalities, camera viewing angles, as well as remote access from the app. The configuration is not very mysterious, nor is it very complex, which is why these systems have become so popular for DIY projects. And as I said at the beginning of this video, their software and applications are so similar between brands precisely because they have proven to work quite well and are easy to implement, finding many tutorials about them online. So we connect the unit to an external screen, connect it to the power supply, we connect the mouse and turn it on. In a few seconds, we can see the initial screen, where after providing the initial password, which is by the way 123456, we simply follow the on-screen instructions, setting a new password or email, which is very important for system recoveries. We set a pattern on the screen that will be used, by the way, as a common authentication method in case that the operator is going to be someone other than the administrator. At this point, we will be ready, and there is no need to change any configuration at this point. Later, we'll see that the only important thing will be to change the default ONVIF password for all the cameras. But we'll do that once they are all connected to the system and working. At this point, all that we need to do is use the cables provided or that we installed to connect the cameras. Remember, we only need the data cable since it will also receive the power that the switch provides to each of the cameras through these ports of the NVR. In our case, we had a number of cables for network and cameras already pre-installed, but we ended up installing a good number of additional cables, at least for cameras, something that I see happens a lot. Remember that if we want to do the wiring ourselves, for example, to prepare and concentrate the wiring as we see in this wall panel, we can use a crimping tool like this one and a wire stripper like this one to make our own cables. A cable tester will also be a good idea to verify that we have done our job well, or simply to check out the output voltage of a PoE network port. It is not a complex operation at all. We simply have to verify that all cables are always terminated according to how the rest of the cables are in our network. There are only two standards, 568A and B. The most common, 568B, but the cables could arrive with the A standard. It's a good practice to make all your cables match the same standard in your network. We can also use devices like this, not only to diagnose if our cable has been properly terminated, but also to be able to verify if the port to which we are connecting provides electricity, what is the voltage that it is providing, but most importantly, if it is a standard PoE or not. We'll leave you the links in the description if you want to be the ones who install absolutely everything, and in that case, these devices would be very practical to have in your toolbox. We see that when we connect to the cameras, as you can see right here, they will begin to appear on the main screen. We won't go into depth about many of the menus of this camera system, as it's a ready-to-use system, and we'll find many tutorials online to delve deeper into the topic that we wish. However, the most important thing we'll be changing in the IP camera is the ONVIF password and ensuring the NVR firmware is kept up to date. We can do this by accessing the NVR's IP address over the network from any browser. We'll see more of that in a moment, but each camera auto-configures itself according to the port used. Also, the model and the IP address will be reported after reaching the corresponding camera menu. Like I said, very intuitive to get. This can also be a great way to test that all the cameras have arrived fully functional. Each one of the cameras will take about 1 minute to be ready. Remember that they come pre-installed for ceiling mount. We can still rotate the image from the software in the NVR. In each of the camera's menu, it will show us the IP address assigned by its switch and the camera model. This is also where we can set the username and the password once we're finished. Here's an example of rotating the image received from the camera and the people detecting feature in action, which is very useful as we'll see in chapter 4. We'll follow the same process for the rest of the cameras we're going to install. One recommendation right here is to buy systems with more ports than we currently need, so you will not run out of cameras and, even more sadly, run out of ports. One of the advantages is that each camera, when connected, will immediately give us a signal that it is receiving power, which is very useful when we're installing remote cameras. Physically installing the cameras is very intuitive. Simply remove the screws from the metal protection, then screw them onto the base, which will secure it in the chosen location. Close the cover again, ensuring that the gaskets are in place so it will maintain its IP rating. Once we've verified its operation, we can then move the NVR to the location where it will be installed. Finally, we begin connecting the cables at the NVR end. This ensures that every time that we connect a camera in its final location, we will immediately know that the connection has been successful. The cameras do have some tolerance for tilting and rotation, so you can give them a final tuning, and only when you're sure, we close the protective housing. We realized at this point that at one of the locations where we had wired a single network port, we needed two cameras, and wiring to that end was very difficult. For those who find themselves in this situation at some point, you can use these small devices, links to which we have provided in the description. These devices not only let you branch the power over Ethernet, but also act as a small switch. Simply enter the camera's IP address and the corresponding menu on the NVR on the corresponding port. The list of the IP assigned to each camera is very easy to find. If we want to monitor the orientation of the cameras while we are right next to them, simply go to the network menu, go under P2P, we verify that it's active, of course, and then we can scan the QR code with our mobile app, which will contain all the information for that remote connection. It will be very intuitive and useful when installing our cameras. This QR code, by the way, will give you instant access to your system. Of course, both have to be connected to the internet. Here we see an example of how we will always install more cameras than we initially thought. The green cables were the ones originally planned. We're talking here about cameras, and the light color cables are the ones that came with the system and that we had to install as additional cabling. The weatherproof connector protectors are very useful in areas with high humidity or when are exposed to water. It is important to install the gasket correctly for a tight seal, as well as the rear cover so that additional gasket fits around the cable. We really liked these connectors. This is the end result of what was initially a very messy convergence of cables, and it was obvious that we were gonna need a rack like this one. As we mentioned, this cabinet houses the internet equipment as well as electrical protection in case of a power outage. It also has the local network switch that provides wired access around the house, something very practical to have. Everything converging at one place. Okay, let's see how to connect to this system, watch recordings, and what alternatives are available for this. We can basically connect to this system in 4 different ways. The first one, through its web interface by simply typing the NVR's web address into your browser. By the way, it's a good practice to set a fixed IP address outside the range assigned by a router as soon as we can. The web interface works quite well. You just need to install a plugin when viewing it for the first time. The web interface offers the most options for remote configuration, management, and viewing. Second, it's by installing the guard station monitoring program, which can be downloaded from the manufacturer's website and installed in a few moments. This option is very useful for 24/7 monitoring from remote locations, since it also works by linking the P2P account. Third, of course, it will be what we think is an outstanding app that from any mobile device will allow us not only to configure at a basic level, but also to have a very quick access to our live video and recordings. And lastly, the fourth option that you'll have is the direct access to the system via a mouse and a connected monitor, ideal for checkpoints and security offices. They all work quite well. The one that we usually end up using, of course, is the app, and the second is the guard station, through which we simply add a new device and can very quickly download recordings and monitor our system. There are also several tutorials online about how to add it, something very intuitive since the system will actually detect it on our local network, as we see in the screen. It sounds obvious, but it is important to add it once the IP address has already been established as fixed from the web interface. Like I said, there will be things that are only available from the web interface, again, the most complete. Our experience with the image and picture quality was quite good. Of course, it's not the 4K we see on Blu-rays. There's also a considerable video compression, but still far superior to what we're used to see in Full HD systems. Night vision, as we can see right here, is extraordinary. In this camera, using only infrared vision without the support of small white LED lights for the color viewing. These 3 locations, for example, are in complete darkness. These 2 were supported by very small traditional bulb lamps, and this one temporarily in the wiring center cabinet while we continued our installation. Timelines for event searching are very easy to manage regardless of the interface. We can quickly identify events on that timeline, which is another advantage of these systems, allowing us to quickly pinpoint when motion or specific detections have occurred on each camera. Audio, of course, is an excellent addition to these IP cameras today. Audio is available instantly from the web interface. Saving events to our computer local drive is also a great option. It's very simple and will show us where our video was exported. Here is an example of a downloaded video, which by the way records this video including the detection box overlay of the object that it has identified. Very good too. As for the app, we found it surprisingly good. One of the things, by the way, that we should look for when using the mobile app of any camera system is how long it takes to open the app and then view our live video. That is, react to events and be able to take screenshots, for example. We can also download a recording to our phone and save it locally. In our test, accessing the cameras from mobile networks never took more than 3 seconds. As we see in the app, it also identifies the exact point where events have occurred, and we can quickly search and document such event depending of course on the type of event, in this case a vehicle. Switching from one camera to another one is also a very important factor when choosing a new camera systems app. As conclusions and recommendations, well, there are dozens of factors to discuss regarding a system like this one, but it would take extremely long videos. We'll most likely cover the topics that you ask the most in future videos. Our experience has been quite good. Today, after 3 months of the installation of the system, it has worked flawlessly. It has asked us to update a couple times, something that is very important. They have a quite good night vision, even with that image compression that we talked about. These cameras have the possibility of illuminating also with the small side LEDs to be able to see at night in color mode, which is also quite interesting. The response from the mobile app is extremely fast and has never failed. The hard drive capacity will vary depending of course on the recording mode that we have configured. By default, it will record 24/7 on all channels, which is our recommendation especially for this type of systems so you don't miss any important events. Another recommendation, and very important indeed, add a UPS to your system so it will be protected from power outages, centralizing the power supply and keeping the system recording 24/7. Which will most likely require installing an additional hard drive to provide more recorded history. We are very happy with our decision to purchase this system. It was not recommended to us, nor was it sent to us for evaluation. We were lucky to have chosen it based of course on its reviews, as the most important factors to consider work very well with this unit. We were very lucky to have chosen it based of course on its reviews, as the most important factors to consider work very well with this unit. If you're interested in the same system, like I said, we'll leave you the links in the description to all the hardware that we used in this video. We really hope that this was very helpful to you. Remember that your kind support to our channel and the time and effort it takes for us to create these videos is simply to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. See you next time.